All right, let's get back into the game here. Let's get to that longer question I didn't feel I could fit into that other one. Over the last few years in college, uh, I've studied and read a lot on psychology, enough to give me slightly more than basic knowledge on the subject. I recently moved back home with my mother since I lost my job, and I've noticed that in the last few years that I've been away, she's changed and showing very strong signs of a paranoid and neurotic psychosis and mild signals of a growing problem that could lead into schizophrenia. She had a bad childhood and had a lot of issues in her life before 30, which could have damaged her. But how would somebody tell somebody who they're this close to what they think that their state of mental health is deteriorating? As would be expected, she is blissfully ignorant of the whole thing, but me and my sisters have noticed a change, and I wouldn't know what to do. The paranoid neurosis she has makes it very difficult for people to talk to her about things relating to her without violent, angry outbursts from her, followed by her turning into a recluse until she forces a full apology and usually fake explanation as to why we accuse/ask her something. I know this question is long, but I'd like to get an impartial opinion. Thank you. All right. First of all, let's not assume it's schizophrenia, but it could be. All right, this is the thing you have to understand about schizophrenia. Late onset schizophrenia is usually more severe than earlier onset schizophrenia. Most schizophrenics start to show symptoms between when they, adolescence and like 21, 22, in that range. That is when most schizophrenia pops up. All right, but there is late onset schizophrenia, which is more rare and also more severe and harder to treat with drugs, which is why it's more severe. Part of the problem here is the problem with all. The main problem in this country with mental illness is there's this stigma about mental illness, which is really unfortunate. Which is the reason that it's so hard for people with mental illness, even if they recognize there's something wrong with them, to go seek help or to admit it, because we've stigmatized it. There is no reason for mental illness to be a stigma. It is a disease of the brain. All right, we don't have a stigma against people with cancer. It's the same fucking thing, and it's really unfortunate what we do in this country to people with mental illness. Which is why it takes so long, oftentimes, to get people onto, a system of treatment. It's so difficult to get to that point, but that's what you have to do. She could be. I lived the better part of I lived a long time with a manic depressive, bipolar to the extreme, my stepfather. Sometimes when a person is having a manic episodes, they can display symptoms of psychosis and hallucinations and complex delusions and shit like that. That can happen. All right. So it's not necessarily schizophrenia, but it's a double-edged sword, because oftentimes the doctors will misdiagnose it as bipolar disorder, thinking that they're just having a psychotic episode because they're on a manic high, when in reality they actually have schizophrenia. You need to figure out if there's cycles here. What are the cycles? If she's bipolar disorder, she will have cycles, and they'll usually be very regular. You can time them through a year or a month, even depending on how severe the situation is. You have to think back as far as possible and really examine her behavior and see if she's had these symptoms before. Because you say you didn't really notice it until you got back from college, but it's possible that these were here before. And if she's displayed symptoms like this that you really kind of ignored before, then it's more likely that she just has manic depression, and not schizophrenia. But you need to get her help. That is a definite. It's not something that can be dealt with on its own. These people, you have to get medication. You know, you can get treatment for some things through you know, therapy and whatnot, but you have to have medication to control the symptoms so that people are willing to even participate in therapy. I would recommend videotaping or recording her when she is having an episode and showing it to her later when she's in a calm, lucid state. All right, that's what we did for my stepfather. He did because they don't know. All right, especially if they're on a very high manic level, they don't recognize what's going on. They don't see that they're acting strange, and that's doubly so for someone who's experiencing a schizophrenic episode. Because when a schizophrenic experiences an episode, hears speech that isn't there, or forms a complex delusion, it is real in their brain. It is real to them. It is as real as me talking to you right now. That is their reality. That's why you cannot talk somebody down from that state. It's not possible. All right? But record her. Do something like that and show it to her when she's in a different state. But you have to be, you can't be too aggressive about it because she's going to feel attacked. And that just feeds into the problem, the stigma of mental illness in this country, is that she will feel, you know, the same way that she's been feeling, that people think there's, you know, that they're attacking her for the way she is, and you want to avoid that. So you have to be as gentle as possible, but you need to tell her you have to take action. You know, mental illness is a very, very, very serious issue. All right, and if it's gone untreated, or if it's treated improperly, the person will die by their own hands, or they'll just lose the will to live, frankly. That will happen. All right, but you have to get her into treatment as soon as possible, and try to find a good psychiatrist. A lot of psychiatrists just write prescriptions and we go. Just write prescriptions, we go. You know, you have to get a good one. I've dealt with some very piss poor mental health doctors, and they'll fuck up your situation even worse. All right, but you have to make her see that she's disrupting her own life, that it's not right. You know what I'm saying? And especially if this is late onset schizophrenia, because that is a very serious issue. All right, does she display schizophrenic symptoms? Has she formed complex delusions? You know what I'm saying? Does she speak in word salads or write in word salads? Does she have disjointed thoughts? A word salad is pretty much a seemingly random collection of phrases and words that only really have a solid connection in the mind of the person saying them or writing them at the time. So look for shit like that, because that's a sure sign that she's experiencing a schizophrenic episode. Either way, the best advice I can give you right now is to get fucking treatment as soon as possible, because it's not going to get better on its own. It's not going to get better on its own. So, wow, I talked for a quick minute on that one. I'll go on to the next video. I'll try to fit some more questions in there because I don't think I have enough time right now. So.